Good morning, students. Today we are continuing the third part of the chapter 3, that is human reproduction. So you have understood about the structure and the function of the sex organ. Okay? So you have understood about the reproductive system in case of male as well as in case of female. So the structure is clear, and in that what is the role of each part is also clear to you. So once you have understood the structure and the function of the sex organs, you are now understanding within the primary sex organ what is the process that occurs. So the process you all already know, it is the gametogenesis. So today we are discussing about the gametogenesis process. So gametogenesis comes under your pre-fertilization. As known before, you all know the definition. It is the process of production of gametes. In detail, we have to understand it is within the primary sex organ. So what is that primary sex organ? In case of males it is testis. In case of females it is ovary. And within these sex organs, gametes are produced. So what is that gametes termed as? Sperm in case of males, ovum in case of females. And hence the process will be turned based on in which sex organ or which body it occurs in. If in case it happens in males, that is the production of sperms, we call it as spermatogenesis. And in case if it is in females, okay, so the ovum is produced in female through the process oogenesis. So if the 1 mark question is asked, what is spermatogenesis, what is oogenesis, you should be able to write, okay, the process of production of sperms, that is for spermatogenesis, I'm just saying the sentence, the process of production of sperms, okay, produced by the primary sex organ, that is testis, in males. So it is the production of sperms. In case of oogenesis, production of ovum in the female sex organ, that is the ovary. So you have understood it is production of gametes, production of sperms, production of ovum. Therefore the names: sperm production, spermatogenesis; ovum production, oogenesis. So I hope it is clear. Production of sperms in males within the primary sex organ, that is testis. That is called as spermatogenesis. Then production of or formation of ovum in the primary sex organ of female, that is ovary, is called as oogenesis. So it is clear about gametogenesis and its two terminologies based on which sex it comes under. Okay, so which gender it comes under. So today we are discussing about the whole process, how the formation of gamete occurs. So based on the names I've written here already, spermatogenesis and oogenesis. First we'll deal with the spermatogenesis. As I said, genesis, production. What is the one that is need to be produced? The sperms. So therefore the term spermatogenesis. So I've written here process of formation of functional sperm. You have to add on the sentence. This is in case of you remember, for your point of view to remember the answer. It is the formation of functional sperm. Where is it produced in? In the testis. So you have to write formation of functional sperm in the testis, okay, or in the primary sex organ of males. So here you should know when it begins. It begins at puberty. That is the time they are called mature, puberty. So where does this process occurs? Spermatogenesis or the formation of sperms, it occurs in testis. How these sperms are produced? It is produced from spermatogonia. Singular spermatogonium, also called as immature male germ cell. Immature male germ cell produces mature sperms. I hope the words are clear to you. So that's why I've written here spermatogonia singular, spermatogonium. Just observe the suffix. So this is the mother cell. Immature mother cell, or we say it as germ cell, since it leads to the production of gametes. That's why we say germ cell here in case of humans or higher animals. Now this is just to recall. You all know about the primary sex organ which produces the gametes. So here you all know about seminiferous tubule which is shown. I hope you all can observe here. So this part over here, the sixth part which they are trying to enlarge here, the sixth part they have already told, that is the coiled seminiferous tubules, and this is the enlarged portion where they are showing the male germ cell as well as the Sertoli cells. Within that you can find a lumen. Can you find over here at this region where I just marked? Let me show you in other color. So this color, please observe here that middle portion consists of sperms. So you understood about the sperms that are released into the lumen of seminiferous tubule. So the seminiferous tubule which is coiled is brought out and shown for you for the better view. So once it is produced, it has to travel. I hope you all remember rete testis, vas efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens. Then you all remember it. Okay. So we are studying about this process in your today's topic. So here you all just observe. This is your seminiferous tubule. We are just showing one section. Observe carefully. You can see something like that is empty, but it is actually a cell-like structure called Sertoli cell. Similarly, if you see in this direction, you can find here. So on that Sertoli cell, you can find the motile or functional or mature sperms. So these mature sperms are present on the Sertoli cell for the nourishment. You all know about the male germ cell which is called as spermatogonium, singular spermatogonium, plural it is spermatogonia. Here you can see the cell, the male germ cell or the spermatogonium divides to produce the sperms. That is what the process of spermatogenesis is. Just notice the names here. So first it divides to produce primary spermatocyte, then again it divides to produce secondary spermatocyte. So see the word spermatocyte, cell, then finally it is your spermatid. They have pointed here. Spermatid, okay, will finally form the function. They have pointed at the wrong place here. You can show it. Spermatids are non-functional, non-motile. So whatever they have pointed, you can point it to a smaller cell over here. So imagine I'm drawing a smaller cell, a small cell, smaller than these. So as the cells divide, since it is reductional division, we are showing the reduction in the size also. So just remember, spermatid will be the small sized cell with no flagella. So I hope it is clear. Primary spermatocyte, then secondary spermatocyte, then formation of spermatid, then finally the functional motile sperms, spermatozoa, which is also called as sperms. So you got the idea. Now we'll just study in stepwise manner how the process is. Okay. So spermatogonium is clear for you, the male germ cell. You all know about the ploidy. When I say ploidy, it is the number of chromosomes or the set of chromosomes. So set is two sets are there. 23 pairs, 46 chromosomes. 23 pairs means 23 into 2. It is 46 chromosomes. So you all know already, present on the inside wall of seminiferous tubule. Just to make you clear, this is the one, the inside wall, which is containing your spermatogonium. So spermatogonium, to make it into more number, just to increase the number of spermatogonia, it undergoes mitosis. Okay, just to increase the number. So they undergo mitosis just to increase the number of spermatogonia. In those, imagine I have divided, this is the spermatogonia, which has divided to form many this is spermatogonium, divides to produce many spermatogonia. So in that, only few which I have just marked red, those will grow and form primary spermatocyte. So they will grow, only some of the spermatogonia, only some. So that will grow in size and form as the primary spermatocyte. Now you will understand about the primary spermatocyte, which I said over here. So it's grown spermatogonium. Now they are showing one cell that has grown to form primary spermatocyte. So I hope it is clear now. Spermatogonium has grown to form primary spermatocyte. Now what happens to this primary spermatocyte? Now it undergoes reductional division. So what is that reductional division? We say it as meiosis 1. Observe, 2n becomes n. So number of chromosomes, since 2n, only one set will go into the each divided cell. Two sets are there, each will go into. So imagine this is the primary spermatocyte. Okay, this nucleus will divide to produce n and n, and these two haploid cells are called as secondary spermatocyte. So your primary spermatocyte is diploid. It undergoes reductional division to produce haploid secondary spermatocyte. So is the bracket information. 2n has reduced to n. Now this spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, undergoes the meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 is equational division. So whatever you have got from 2n, it has divided to form n and n. That is your secondary spermatocyte. Now this secondary spermatocyte will again divide. Okay, secondary spermatocyte will again divide, and this time it is equational. I hope you all know what is equational division. As the parent cell, it produces the daughter cells. So now you have got spermatids which are haploid. So this is equational division, meiosis 2, equational division. Now this spermatids are small in size, circular, not having a tail for motility, non-motile. So they cannot move here and there, they are not functional. So this has to turn into a sperm. Okay, so sperms have a modified head and a tail for motility. So that sperm is also called as spermatozoa. So the transformation of spermatids to spermatozoa is called as spermiogenesis. Please note, I have underlined spellings over here just to be making you more aware, just to be aware of the spellings which will keep you little confused. See, you have understood about spermatocyte, you have heard about spermatogonium. Spermatogonium, germ cell, male germ cell. Spermatogonia, many male germ cell. Spermatocyte, now it is undergoing meiosis. That's why spermatocyte, they are cellular. Okay, based on the number of chromosomes, we are saying each division, primary, secondary, and final division, giving your final cells, haploid cells, which we call it as spermatids. They are circular, non-motile. Okay. Now this circular non-motile becomes motile. Okay. When I say motile, they have a tail-like structure. So I hope it is clear now. Now that word is spermatids. So you understood about a cellular structure, spermatocyte. Spermatid is your final cell after meiosis. That's why spermatids. Then spermatozoa. Why the word zoa? Because it is forming a motile structure. So the process is called spermiogenesis. Formation of sperms, functional sperms. Just remember as sperms to become motility spermio. Okay. So spermiogenesis. So this is to make you more clear. Spermatogonia, a single cell. We are showing it begins at puberty. So there is your mitosis and then differentiation. Okay, first mitosis to make more in number, then differentiation means to become a functional meiocyte. When I say meiocyte, it undergoes meiosis. So some of the spermatogonia grow and form into primary spermatocyte. So now each of the spermatocyte undergoes meiosis. So first meiotic division. Let me just show here. Whatever they have shown here, red color is your spermatogonium. It has grown to form a little larger cells. Observe that. So these larger cells which has grown is called as primary spermatocyte. So here please note it. Spermatocytes are here, primary spermatocyte. This is secondary spermatocyte. So it undergoes first meiotic division to produce haploid secondary spermatocyte. This secondary spermatocyte undergoes second meiotic division, which is equational. First one was reductional, so 46 becomes 23. Second meiotic division to form spermatids. So just observe here. They have shown it as an enlarged structure. Keep it in the same. Let me show you in a clear picture. So this size you observe. There's little enlarged structure here. So see that you are able to draw it accordingly as given in textbook. Okay. So this spermatids will undergo differentiation. So that differentiation process to form spermatozoa, the functional one with the tail. This process is called as spermiogenesis. So I hope it is clear. The schematic representation of spermatogenesis, a 5-mark question. You have to explain the whole thing with the chromosome numbers. Please remember to write this. It begins at puberty. So see that you are including all of this to get full 5 marks. Okay. So you are giving a clear picture, a schematic representation you are giving in your answer. Now let us understand what that spermiogenesis was. So if the 1-mark question is asked, you should be able to answer. Transformation of non-functional, non-motile spermatids to functional motile sperms or spermatozoa. That's what I said. Your spermatid is non-functional and non-motile. It converts itself to motile, functional and motile sperms. So I hope the word is clear and the process is clear. Now the sperm heads, when I say sperm heads, it is almost a triangular head. These sperm heads will be embedded in the Sertoli cells. Recall this picture. This is the Sertoli cell and these are your spermatozoa, which is now embedded in the Sertoli cells for nourishment. Okay. So now you are coming to one more term, spermiation. What is that spermiation? Now I'm just giving you an idea. Imagine this is the seminiferous tubule. Your all male germ cells. Okay, I'm just giving a rough idea. In between is your Sertoli cells. Okay, so you all know about the male, that is the sperms are present here. I'm just giving a diagrammatic view. They are embedded in the Sertoli cells. That's what they have explained here. Now read what is given here. The sperms are released from the seminiferous tubules. Now the moment they are released into the lumen, okay, the moment they are released into the lumen, okay, separated from the Sertoli cells and released, so that it will come till the ejaculatory duct. Okay, it will come till the ejaculatory duct. So you all know the pathway of the accessory ducts. So the release from the seminiferous tubules, okay, the sperms are released from the seminiferous tubules, and this process is called as your spermiation. So 1 mark answer. Sperms, the action of release of sperms from the seminiferous tubule. I repeat, the action of release of sperms from where? From the seminiferous tubule. This process is called as spermiation. Okay, please be careful with the terms spermatogenesis, spermiogenesis, spermiation and spermiogenesis again. Okay, please do understand, do not get confused, try to get a comparison. If you have doubts, let me know. Okay, okay, now we'll understand. Sorry for the interruption. So there is your spermatogenesis starting at the puberty. Let us understand how it is occurring at puberty. So what is giving that initiation? What is giving that start button? Okay, so let us understand now. It's easy to understand a 3 mark or a 5 mark question. First, you should know, you all know about your neural coordination, neural control and coordination chapter in first PUC. If you all just go back and see, you'll understand there is your brain, there is your hypothalamus, there is your pituitary gland. Okay, let me just give you a better idea. Imagine this is your brain. You all remember your hypothalamus, the region here. Okay, and in that you all know about a pituitary gland. From the pituitary gland, we are talking the effect on the sex organs. Okay, sex organs. I cannot write much over here. Okay, now we are going in that order itself. First we are talking about the hypothalamus releasing a hormone, okay, which will act on the pituitary. Then pituitary will act on the sex organs. Pituitary will release certain hormones to act on the sex organs over here. That is your either ovary or testis. So it is on which organism, whether it is the male or female, we'll understand one by one. So here we are studying, in case of male, how the mechanism, hormonal mechanism occurs for initiation of spermatogenesis. So there is at a period, okay, in their age, there is a period where there is high or increase in the secretions of a particular hormone, which we call it as hypothalamic hormone. Since it is released by hypothalamus, we call it as a hypothalamic hormone. The name of the hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone. We call it as GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. Now this GnRH, once it is high in its concentration, it will act on the pituitary gland. Which pituitary part? The anterior pituitary gland. You all know about its anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary gland. Okay, so in that we are talking about the anterior pituitary, which will release the gonadotropin. There is one S missing. Please add the S. So what are those gonadotropins? Gonadotropins are the ones which will then stimulate the LH and FSH. Okay, so LH and FSH will be released. You will understand where they will go and act. About the gonadotropins, it is in your pituitary gland. It will produce LH and FSH. Your gonadotropins are of two types, LH and FSH. So LH, I have not written the target location here. Please note it. It is your sex organ, the testis. Okay, so it will stimulate the secretions of LH and FSH. So this particular LH and FSH will reach till the target organ, that is testis. What happens there? Please note the full form: luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. So the LH will act on the Leydig cells. This is the final target. Leydig cells, I hope you all remember, between the seminiferous tubules. You all remember there were certain cells like structure. So those are your Leydig cells. These are your Leydig cells. So these Leydig cells will stimulate the synthesis as well as secretion of androgens. So your androgens are your male sex hormones, which will give the secondary sexual characters as well as initiate for the development of your sex organ also. Especially in your spermatogenesis, androgens are needed. Not only your androgens for secondary sexual characters, there is your another hormone, FSH, that will act on Sertoli cells. So it can stimulate the secretion of some important factors. Why that important factors? Because of those important factors, we can run the process of spermatogenesis. Remember, Leydig cells are important for spermatogenesis also, but they are incomplete without the certain important factors. So it is together LH and FSH acting on the target cells. So those target cells will release androgens and some factors important for the spermatogenesis. Is it clear? I hope it is clear now about the hormonal mechanism. So GnRH act on pituitary gland. Pituitary gland will release gonadotropins. So what is that gonadotropins? It is the stimulation. It is this gonadotropin will then see that the pituitary gland can produce LH and FSH. So this is your in turn, gonadotropins is in turn your two types, FSH, LH. So your pituitary hormones will then reach to the final target cells, that is Leydig cells and Sertoli cells of testis. I hope it is clear. So this is the structure of sperm. Structure of sperm, a 5-mark question can be asked. Just observe what and all is present. There is your prominent nucleus. So you can see, this is from your textbook it is taken. Practice this diagram. This haploid nucleus, above the haploid nucleus you will find a triangular structure called acrosome. Okay, and throughout the body you can see the lining, that is your plasma membrane. So this all these three structures are your head, belonging to head. There is your neck region containing your centrioles type. Okay, when I say centriole like, It is specially for your formation of axoneme, which is not important. You can see a tail like structure to run, for the movement, like whipping movement, how you whip a horse for it to move. Same way, a whip, when you give it, the sperm can move forward. So that action, whipping action, will be facilitated with the help of mitochondria. Mitochondria, you all know already, it is the energy source. So this is the middle piece now. This, as I've said, axoneme is continuous till the tail, till the end. So your middle piece consists of your mitochondria, which is spirally arranged. So just going through the human sperm structure can be asked for 5-mark question. So it's a microscopic structure, consists of head, neck, middle piece and a tail. And the sperm body is fully covered with the plasma membrane. The sperm head, as I said, it consists of haploid nucleus. Now this is an important question. What is an acrosome? You saw the structure above the nucleus. A triangular portion called acrosome is present. So anterior to nucleus is a cap-like covering structure that is called as your acrosome. This acrosome is filled with enzymes. Please note, I have written it in bracket. I have written it as brackets for you all to know it is hydrolytic in nature. Those enzymes are hydrolytic in nature. So if you are writing the answer, if the question is asked, see writing this, both the words hydrolytic enzymes. Okay. In those are having the old version books, I think it is missing. Now, so you all have understood about the acrosome. It contains hydrolytic enzymes. What is the purpose of hydrolytic enzymes? You all know about ovum. It has many walls around it. Okay, and for the sperm to enter, okay, it has to break all these walls and then release the sperm nucleus. Only the nucleus has to enter, not the whole sperm. So let me draw it again. So imagine this is the one and your sperm is coming. So for it to penetrate and reach till the nucleus, the ovum nucleus, egg nucleus, till here, till this portion, it has to penetrate. The sperm has to penetrate. To penetrate easily, there is your enzymes. You all know what hydrolytic enzymes done. When I say the word lytic, it will see that it will break the bonds, releasing water molecules and break the walls. So imagine if this is the wall, once the sperm enters, it will see that a way is created. So it is like a cone like way is created. So the sperm can easily enter and release the sperm nucleus along with the egg nucleus. So I hope it is understood now. So don't worry about that, you are just understanding the structure of sperms. Coming to the middle piece, so sperm head is understood. In middle piece, there is numerous mitochondria arranged spirally, and you all know very well what is the use or the purpose of mitochondria. It produces energy mainly for the movement of tail. Okay, the movement of tail facilitates the sperm motility. So that's why it is essential for fertilization. That's why I explained you about how it enters and penetrates through the wall layers of the ovum. So it is clear over here. This is your explanation for 5-mark question. Now here is your all 1-mark questions. As I told before for you all, in the ejaculatory duct, we all studied about the accessory ducts. In that ejaculatory duct, the sperms are stored. Now in this ejaculatory duct, there is your number of sperms present. So during the ejaculation, during the coitus, when ejaculation occurs, So when I say ejaculation, it is expelling of sperms. The normal count is given. Then only that normal count is called as your fertile count. That person is fertile, the male is fertile. So what is that normal count? 1 mark question. It is 200 to 300 million sperms. Okay. So you all know about the sperms. From where it is released? From the seminiferous tubules. Then once it is, that process I hope you all know, spermiation. So once it has occurring, it has come out from the seminiferous tubule. Once it has come out from the seminiferous tubule, it enters accessory ducts. Along with the secretions of accessory glands, it will help in maturation as well as in motility. So you all know about secretions. You all remember the seminal plasma. So those secretions along with the sperms, they are together termed as semen. So that is your ejaculate. Ejaculate is also called as semen. But in that ejaculate, you should be able to write what is the count, the normal count, the 1 mark question, as well as the 1 mark question, what is semen. Now the functions of male accessory ducts and glands are maintained by testicular hormones called androgens. Now when I say the androgens are your secondary sexual characters required for the when I say secondary sexual characters, see that you are writing about your androgens, which is mainly playing a role for the most of your external as well as internal male characters. Okay, so when I say internal, it is spermatogenesis, and not only spermatogenesis, development of sex organ. So when I say development of sex organ, we are talking about your primary sex organ as well as accessory ducts, accessory glands. So those are your testicular hormones. One group of hormones is your androgens. Okay. Now we'll understand about oogenesis. Now this oogenesis process is little tougher, but only with the easy access. When you, as you read, you will come to know. So there is your blood connection, blood vessels. There are your follicular stages. Okay, inside that follicular stage you can see a yellow color marking. That is where your single ovum is getting produced. Okay, without any further ado, so this is your 5 mark question, schematic representation of oogenesis. So just observe here. There is your oogonia, primary spermatocyte. Okay, till here it is spermatocyte. Primary spermatocyte is here. Now that till here oogonia and the production of primary, sorry, I'm very sorry, I said spermatocyte. It should be oocyte, since we are talking about oogonia and oocyte. This is what happens even in the exams. Please be very careful. Oogonia and primary oocyte. Now you have understood about the oogonia will grow to form primary oocyte. So this is all during the fetal life. That's why they have pointed fetal life here. So this is all before birth. So what is happening to primary oocyte? It is your first meiotic division arrested at prophase 1. You will understand as I go through. And then the meiosis occurs. So there is your meiosis, that is starting from puberty. So puberty is the one which helps for the development of the functional ovum. Let us understand about oogenesis. So process of formation of mature female gamete. So production of female gamete or ovum from the primary sex organ of female or ovary. So when it starts, in case of male, the gamete was functional, or the spermatogenesis initiated at the puberty. Whereas here, oogenesis, it was already initiated at the embryonic stage itself, embryonic development stage. So once the sex organ is formed, it immediately produces many millions of oogonia. So a couple of millions of oogonia formed in each fetal ovary. So it is fetal ovary, fetal life. What about after birth? No more oogonia are added or formed. So it is before birth itself, millions of oogonia are formed. Now in this, before birth, these oogonial cells are divided and then enter prophase 1 of meiosis 1. It should have been meiosis 1. It's not 2, it is 1. Okay. Prophase 1 of meiosis 1. It has just entered and it got temporarily arrested. A temporary arresting is only for some time it will get blocked. When it is a favorable time, it will be unblocked. Okay, so unblocking is done by certain hormones. So you all have to remember there are hormones and factors even in oogenesis process. So what happens to the oogonia? So oogonia you understood. Remember females, oogonia is produced in millions of number before the birth itself in the fetal ovary. Okay, and after birth no more oogonia are added. What happens to the oogonial cells? They will divide, produce more in number, enter into prophase 1 of meiosis 1. Okay, meiosis 1. So at this particular stage, it gets temporarily arrested. Now this whole stage, the cell being in prophase 1 of meiosis 1, okay, is called as primary oocyte. So coming back here to show the structure, this is your primary oocyte. Is it clear? Oogonia. So mitosis to make the number more number of oogonia is created. Millions are created in each ovary during the fetal life. They will differentiate to form primary oocyte. So that primary oocyte, again it has grown and entered prophase 1 of meiosis 1 and has been temporarily arrested. Now this primary oocyte will be surrounded by granulosa cells. Now what is this granulosa cells? You will remember about the ovary. This is the peripheral region, this is the center region. So peripheral region is called as cortex, middle it is your medulla, or the center is medulla. So here in the cortex region only you will find your certain cells. Okay, now those cells are surrounding the oocyte. So those cells are termed as granulosa cells. They are specialized cells. These granulosa cells are having, they produce estrogen. Okay, they produce estrogen for the developing oocyte. So oocyte has to undergo division to finally produce ovum. So I hope it is clear. Now that yellow portion is your oocyte, and around it you can find the layer of cells, that is your granulosa cells, forming the follicles. So observe here, there is your first primary follicle. It has just begun. Only single layer of cells are formed. There is no diagram asked for this. It's only the theory part. So primary oocyte is surrounded by a single layer of granulosa cells. So imagine if this is the primary oocyte, around it a single layer of granulosa cells occur. So that is your follicle-like structure. That's why primary follicle. So during this phase, what that phase I'm talking about, from birth to puberty, large number of these primary follicles are degenerated. Let me show you with the schematic diagram what it means. You can see a gap here. It's saying that there is no action. But what happens to the primary follicle? Every month it will enter into the phase, but due to the absence of hormones, it will just degenerate. This primary oocyte will just degenerate. So that's what they are saying. During the phase from birth to puberty, large number of primary follicles are degenerated. So at puberty, how much will remain? This is a 1 mark question. At puberty, 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. So we are talking about from millions in each ovary, how much it remains. So every month, one of the primary follicles gets surrounded with more layers. So we are talking about primary follicle. Now this primary follicle is again surrounded with more layer of granulosa cells. So the again when a layer is formed, it forms a theca, a wall layer. So a new theca, a new wall is formed. So this stage, a stage of follicle having more layers of granulosa cells, is called as secondary follicle. Single layer, primary follicle. Then this primary follicle is again surrounded with many granulosa cell layers to form secondary follicle. Inside this follicle, the stage is as it is. Okay, it is slowly undergoing the division. So it is entering into the your meiosis stage, meiosis step. So I hope it is clear how primary follicle converts to secondary follicle. How is it? By adding more layers of granulosa cells and a new theca, a new wall. So this secondary follicle will soon transform into tertiary follicle. Without any delay, this process occurs. Primary follicle, secondary follicle and tertiary follicle. Now in tertiary follicle, a very important phase, you have to remember, it is characterized, the tertiary follicle can be easily characterized, it can be easily identified with the presence of a fluid filled cavity called antrum. 1 mark question, what is antrum? Okay. Now here the theca is organized into two layers, theca interna, theca externa. So during the tertiary follicle stage, so we are talking about the tertiary follicle. So observe here, you all observe here, even here you can observe. So as the new theca, you can find it is more layered here. So it is actually creating one inside, one outside. Okay, so it is forming two theca. So two thecas, that is two wall layers. This is your tertiary follicle. Okay, and a fluid filled cavity called antrum. So you can see this fluid filled cavity, that is your antrum. So then finally this tertiary follicle will enter into Graafian follicle, which is the mature one. So we are still in tertiary follicle. So we will continue what is that tertiary follicle is. So you have understood it has antrum and it has theca interna and theca externa. Okay. So in this tertiary follicle, so you remember the structure like this. So the structure is here. This is the oocyte. So it is still primary oocyte. So when the formation of tertiary follicle happens, this primary oocyte has finished growing in size as well as completes first meiosis. Okay. So this first meiosis is unequal division. What is that unequal division? One is a tiny polar body, then the large haploid secondary oocyte. Now we got secondary oocyte. So the first meiosis is complete. It was arrested before the birth. It was arrested before the birth. Primary oocyte was arrested before the birth. It is completed now in which follicle? Tertiary follicle. Okay, and produces secondary oocyte which is large and it is haploid. Along with that, the other one, haploid structure, is tiny and it is called as polar body. So in your secondary oocyte, there it retains your bulk of nutrients, whereas polar body, it is tiny. It is very less, meager amount, very little amount. Okay, so bulk of nutrient rich cytoplasm is present in secondary oocyte. So they are saying retains what? From the primary oocyte it retains in the secondary oocyte. That's why you find it in two different sizes. Observe here, one is big, one is small. So first polar body is tiny, secondary oocyte is large and has major part of the cytoplasm which is nutrient rich. So that's what it's explaining here. Okay. Now we are entering from tertiary follicle. It changes into mature Graafian follicle. Now in that follicle itself it is still oocyte, secondary oocyte, but one change has happened. That is, as tertiary follicle turns to Graafian follicle, so Graafian follicle is a mature follicle. So as the follicle becomes mature, secondary oocyte produces a wall called zona pellucida. Okay, a strong wall called zona pellucida. So for this zona pellucida, you all remember in sperm there was acrosome containing enzymes, hydrolytic enzymes. That enzyme is needed to disintegrate zona pellucida during the entry into the ovum, during the fertilization. So I hope it is clear. So tertiary follicle matures to Graafian follicle. Secondary oocyte which is present in tertiary follicle will only develop zona pellucida. It does not undergo the second division. That is, meiosis 2 does not occur. Meiosis 2 does not occur. Okay. Now this Graafian follicle releases the secondary oocyte on rupture, and this release of secondary oocyte from Graafian follicle, from mature Graafian follicle, is called as ovulation. I repeat, this is a 1 mark question. The release of secondary oocyte from, or you can say the rupture of Graafian follicle to release secondary oocyte. So rupture I'll show you and release I'll show you. So please know the words. This is the Graafian follicle. This is the mature one. This is ruptured. Can you see here it is ruptured? So as it has ruptured, so as it is rupturing out, you can see the secondary oocyte along with the covering, a thick covering, zona pellucida you can find, is present as it releases. So the release of ovum and the rupture of follicle. I hope it is clear now the words. They have even labeled it the same. So what is ovulation? Release of ovum, okay, on the rupture of your mature Graafian follicle. Better sentence, rupture of mature Graafian follicle, releasing the the secondary oocyte. Okay, releasing the secondary oocyte. Don't write ovum directly, secondary oocyte. This part is clear. We'll understand about how that secondary oocyte is. If the question is asked, draw the structure of ovum, you should be able to draw this. Okay, so the best picture which I recommend is from your textbook. Okay, the textbook diagram is here, not this one. This is only for your CET point of view. I have given extra diagrams. So see that you are focusing on this. Today I am not giving you all to draw the diagrams. Today I am giving you all only the lecture questions. Okay, the theory questions. Diagrams I'll be giving you all in the next class, because the next class portion, the next class topic will not have any diagrams. Therefore I'll be giving that time the diagrams. Okay, when you're free you can draw the textbook diagrams only. When you're free you can draw, but next class I'm giving you however the questions. So observe here. So you can see your oocyte, the secondary oocyte with the nucleus which is shown here. You can see a little lighter portion, that is your nucleus. So this is your surrounding one thin membrane, that is your plasma membrane. So this is your cytoplasm, plasma membrane. This whole structure is your secondary oocyte, this whole structure. So you can next find a space like, that is your perivitellin space, which is not mentioned. Outside to that space you can find the first one, vitelline membrane. Okay, please note, before vitelline membrane there is your zona pellucida. After zona pellucida it is vitelline membrane. Then after vitelline membrane you will find your radiating cells. That radiating cells are called as corona radiata. Okay, you are however aware of this name now, corona. So it is having that crown like feature. You can see that crown like feature. Even here you can see it is radiating outside. Even your virus is the same thing. Okay, with certain structure. So we say it as crown like radiation. So it is corona radiata. Okay, that's why the cell's appearance is that way. So you can better draw this, not this. I recommend you all to draw this. If the question is asked, draw the structure of ovum, just erase the sperm and draw the ovum. So I hope it is clear. So you can see here it is perivitelline space. So there is your zona pellucida, then perivitelline space, vitelline membrane. Okay, now we are done with your whole gametogenesis process. Regarding the mechanism of how the hormones are playing, how the cycle is in case of females, you will understand in the next topic, that is the menstrual cycle. So I hope till here it is understood. Just memorize this. This is a very important question. I hope you all can summarize on your own. Any doubts, let me know. Looking at this flowchart only you can easily follow up. Okay, let me know if you have any doubts. Answer these questions and submit before 10 o'clock. Thank you, students.